Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel, where we explore timeless stories and the lessons they hold. Today, we have a fascinating tale for you, one that carries a message as relevant today as it was centuries ago. It's the story of the demon who sold rice. So, grab a comfy seat and let's dive into a world of magic, trickery, and wisdom. Once upon a time, nestled between rolling hills and a dense ancient forest, there was a small village. The people who lived there were hardworking and honest. They rose with the sun to till their fields and worked until the moon cast long shadows across the land. But despite their relentless efforts, they often faced hardship. The soil was stubborn, the rains were unpredictable, and poor harvests were a frequent and unwelcome guest. Hunger was a constant worry, a quiet ache in the belly of the community. Just outside the village, where the cultivated fields met the wild, untamed woods, lived a demon. Now, this wasn't a monstrous, fire-breathing creature of legend. This demon was cunning, delighting in mischief and the art of deception. His greatest joy came from tricking unsuspecting humans, watching their hopes crumble into disappointment. He was a master of illusions and empty promises. One bright morning, as the villagers gathered at the weekly market, a new and unusual vendor appeared. It was the demon, disguised as a cheerful merchant. He carried a large, overflowing basket of rice on his shoulder. The grains were plump, pearly white, and looked more perfect than any rice the villagers had ever seen. He set his basket down with a theatrical thud, drawing the attention of the curious crowd. With a booming, friendly voice, he began his sales pitch. "Fresh rice, the finest rice you'll ever see," he shouted, his smile wide and inviting. "Come one, come all, buy my delicious rice. One single coin for a full basket." The crowd gasped. 1 coin for a whole basket. It was an unbelievable price. A basket of rice usually cost 10 times that, and even then, it was never of this quality. The villagers, their stomachs rumbling with the memory of meager meals, were immediately captivated. They looked at the rice, then at their own worn-out coin purses. The offer seemed too good to be true, a blessing sent from the heavens. One villager, a young farmer whose family had been eating little more than thin soup for weeks, hesitantly stepped forward. "Is it really just 1 coin?" he asked, his voice filled with a mix of hope and disbelief. The demon laughed heartily. "Absolutely. 1 coin, and this entire basket is yours to take home. A gift from my heart to your family's table." Convinced, the young farmer handed over his coin. The demon scooped a generous amount of the glistening rice into the farmer's basket until it was overflowing. The farmer's eyes widened with joy. He thanked the merchant profusely and hurried home, imagining the feast his family would finally enjoy. Seeing his success, other villagers swarmed the demon's stall. One by one, they exchanged their precious single coins for baskets brimming with beautiful rice. The demon's stall was the busiest in the market, and he sold out in no time. His coin pouch growing heavy with the villagers' hopes. That evening, a sense of celebration filled the village. Families cooked the rice, and the wonderful aroma filled their homes. They ate until they were full for the first time in months. They saved the rest, planning their meals for the coming week, feeling a profound sense of relief and security. They went to sleep with full bellies and happy hearts, believing their luck had finally turned. But when the sun rose the next morning, a wave of shock and despair washed over the village. The young farmer went to his pantry to get some rice for breakfast. But when he opened his storage jar, he found only a pile of coarse, useless sand. Confused, he checked the basket he had brought from the market. It, too, was filled with sand. A cry of anguish escaped his lips. Soon, similar cries echoed from every house that had bought the magical rice. All of it, every single grain, had turned into worthless sand overnight. The villagers were devastated and furious. They had been cheated. They had spent their last coins on a lie. Their hope had turned to dust, quite literally. They gathered in the market square, their anger and frustration palpable. But who could they blame? The cheerful merchant had vanished as mysteriously as he had appeared. There was no trace of him, leaving the villagers with nothing but empty pockets and hearts full of bitterness. The news of the great rice deception spread through the village like wildfire. The following market day, the atmosphere was somber. The villagers were wary, their trust shattered. It was on this day that a new visitor arrived in the village. He was an old man with a long white beard and eyes that sparkled with the wisdom of 100 winters. He wasn't a resident, but a traveling sage who had heard whispers of the strange events. As he walked through the market, he noticed a familiar sight. There, in the same spot as before, was the cheerful merchant with another huge basket of pristine white rice. The demon had returned, confident that the villagers' desperation would make them fall for his trick once more. Fresh rice, a bargain you can't refuse, he bellowed, his voice echoing with false sincerity. But this time, the villagers kept their distance, eyeing him with suspicion and anger. The wise old man observed the scene, his gaze sharp and discerning. He saw the flawless rice, noticed the over-the-top charm of the merchant, and sensed the dark illusion that lay beneath. He saw through the demon's disguise. Calmly, he approached the stall, his presence commanding a quiet respect from the surrounding crowd. "That is some remarkable-looking rice you have there, merchant," the old man said, his voice steady and calm. The demon, slightly unnerved by the old man's penetrating gaze, put on his friendliest smile. "The best in the land, old-timer, and at the best price." The wise man nodded slowly. "I'm sure it is," he replied. "But if your rice is as real and wonderful as you claim, you wouldn't mind if I test it first, would you?" The demon hesitated for a split second. A test. He couldn't refuse without raising suspicion. "Of course not. Be my guest," he said, trying to sound confident. The old man reached into a small pouch he carried at his waist and pulled out a tiny vial. "This is just some water from the mountain spring," he explained to the curious onlookers, "but they say it has a way of revealing the truth." He uncorked the vial and, before the demon could react, poured a handful of the clear liquid, which was actually holy water, onto the mound of rice in the basket. The effect was instantaneous and dramatic. The moment the holy water touched the grains, a hissing sound filled the air, and a puff of grey smoke erupted from the basket. The beautiful, pearly rice shimmered and then dissolved, transforming right before everyone's eyes. In its place was nothing but a pile of gritty, grey sand. A collective gasp swept through the crowd, quickly followed by roars of outrage. Their suspicions were confirmed. The merchant was a fraud, a trickster who preyed on their suffering. The demon, his illusion shattered and his true nature exposed, let out a yelp of fear. His disguise flickered, revealing his demonic form for just a moment. Seeing the angry mob surging towards him, he dropped the basket and fled, sprinting towards the safety of the forest as the villagers chased him, shouting and throwing stones. The demon never dared to return to the village again, and from that day forward, the people of the village carried with them a valuable lesson, one learned through bitter experience. They remembered the magical rice that turned to sand, and they never again trusted easy bargains or promises that seemed too good to be true. They learned that true value comes from honest work and that shortcuts and miracle deals often lead to nothing but disappointment. And that's the story of the demon who sold rice. It's a powerful reminder to always be cautious of offers that seem too perfect. In a world full of temptations and quick fixes, this ancient tale teaches us the importance of discernment and the value of skepticism. Thank you so much for joining me for this story. I hope you found it as insightful as I do. What are your thoughts on the moral of this tale? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel for more stories that make you think. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.